every time you do an engineering unit in the learning lab, we always start with a storybook. And there's always a character who's really about your age. So you should be able to really identify with this character. His name is Suman. He's from a country called Nepal. You are way over here where that little dot is. You're in the state of Kentucky. He is almost all the way across the world. He is in a small country right here near India and China. It's called Nepal. Okay? Now I'm going to let all of you follow along in the story as I go. Here we go. Chapter 1. Journey through the night. Suman, Bua, my father, stirred me awake. We need you. My eyes fluttered open. I lay there for a moment, not sure whether I'd been dreaming. Chapter 2. A distraction at school. What's a distraction? It could be a noise, it could be a thought, it could be something in your way. So when you see the title, A Distraction at School, what do you think this chapter is going to be about? Brianna?
Like, Suman, he's at school and he's thinking about Aji, and he's really worried that...
He's distracted and because he's worried about Aji. Would you be able to concentrate on your schoolwork if someone you loved was in a hospital? I picked up the worn brown leather ball at my feet and I threw it toward the rock tower. The rocks clinked as they tumbled down. The next player, AnnaMRS, grabbed the ball and she tried to tag me with it before I could pile all the rocks back up. Does that sound like a fun game? Chapter 4. Now look at their house. What do you notice is similar to their house compared to yours?
It has furniture in it.
They have furniture. Bella?
They have pots and pans.
Pots and pans like you have in your kitchen. Abby, what else do you see that's similar to your house?
I see kind of like shelves.
Shelves to keep things on. Now think about the difference between your home and their home. Lexi?
There's a fire inside their house.
Ooh, a fire inside the house, and it doesn't look like a typical fireplace like we have. What do you notice, Rylan?
It looks like they're like sitting on the earth.
It looks like they're sitting right on the earthen floor, right? And having a meal maybe, because there's a pot right there by Aji. Chapter 5, Technology or Tradition. Who can tell me what a technology is? Callahan, what's a technology?
Something made to solve a problem.
Give me an example. Awesome.
Like a computer.
A computer. Give me another example of a technology.
A home.
Your home is a technology. Brianna? TV. Are you wearing anything that might be a technology? Point to something you're wearing that might be a technology. Your clothes. Are my shoes technology?
Yes.
Namaskar, David Mister responded. I'm glad you've come, Suman, he continued. It's good to have young people see how the TarPuls are built. Riding in the car, pull themselves along using the rope. Some types of soil are better for anchoring structures than others. And if you look real quick at that machine, in the real world, that is probably at least 15 feet high and extremely heavy. What material do you think that real core sample taker might be made out of? What material? Callahan?
Maybe metal.
Probably something very sturdy like metal. So do you think we could take a core sample and I could bring that huge piece of machinery in here? No. So we're going to use something called a plastic cylinder. Here we go. Chapter 6, AnnaMRS Game. Why is there an apostrophe S after that? Kristen?
Because it's her game that she's teaching them.
It shows ownership. It's AnnaMRS Game that she's going to teach. The next day, I stood alongside my school friends waiting to see what AnnaMRS had brought for us. The soil there is hard and packed down from everyone walking across it so much. Where else in our story so far was the earth packed down from people walking across it? Not at the schoolyard. Bella?
Over near the river.
Maybe people walking along the river, but something closer to Suman. Kirsten?
The village.
In the village, closer to Suman.
Inside their house.
Inside their house. Remember, they don't have carpet like we do at our homes or rugs. They were sitting on the bare earth. And over time, everybody walking across that area made that flooring in Suman's house packed down very firmly. And chapter 7 is called A Visit with Kader, and we know Kader is?
The geotechnical engineer.
And one more time, what do geotechnical engineers have to know a whole lot about? Will? The earth. Give me more.
The science. The layers.
Give me more about the earth.
The layers.
The layers of the earth. Is it sand? Is it soil? Is it rocky? Is it dirt? Is it rock, bedrock? Is it clay, like a thick mud? So you're going to become geotechnical engineers, and you're going to know all about that this week too, right? It has to be me. Somehow, it has to be me. If you remember in one of those earlier chapters, when Suman and Sita were walking home from school and he approached Buwa out in the field, he kind of shut him down and kind of put his hand up in his face, like, you're too young to understand, right? You still got some growing up to do. So this is a really big conflict inside of Suman right now, because he's like, I've really got to change Buwa's mind, but I don't want to be disrespectful. So have you ever had a situation where you have been in something similar? Can you think of a time when you were like, oh, I've really got to talk to mom or dad or my grandma, but it's not really what they want to hear? Have you, nod your head if you've kind of ever felt in a situation like that, or maybe even with a friend, right? 2 months later, I sat with Sita crossing the river in the TarPul. Being there made me think of Aji. Once the TarPul was built, Aji was able to visit the doctor more often, something that would be a blessing to our village for many years to come. Now, did they tell us in the story what type of soil was chosen? Do we know? Uh-oh. All right, I'm going to ask a favor of you. I want to make sure that you were really comprehending and absorbing that story. We're going to play a quick little game just to make sure that everybody understood the same thing. And we're going to play what's called justified true and false. So I'm going to make a statement about the story. And if you believe it sounds right or accurate, what card will you hold up?
True.
True. And if something just does not sound right, you're going to hold up? But beware, when you hold up that false card, you have to justify or give me evidence of why you think that sounded wrong. All right, get your brains ready. Geotechnical engineers, like Kader, use their knowledge of the layers of the earth to help them decide where the best sites are to build buildings or bridges. Good job. Oh, I thought I would trick somebody. All right, try this one. Choosing the right site for a building is so important to how long it will last over time. That's true. Good job. I'm going to have to make these harder, aren't I? Suman was from Kentucky, and the Ohio River kept flooding, so he couldn't get his Angie across the river to the clinic during the rainy season. Why is everybody laughing at me? Lexi, what was wrong with that? Why does everybody have false up?
Because Aji lives in, I forgot what it was called.
Let's help her out.
Nepal.
Nepal. And the Ohio River wasn't flooding? Oh, what was the name of that river? Alyssa? The Karnali River. All right. All right, during the tetherball game at school, the poles fell over because they were packed down into a thick mud called clay. All right, what's wrong with that?
Thick clay will hold it down.
A thick mud clay would
Hold it down.
hold the pole down. But what did he stick the pole down into, Taylor, earlier in the story?
And
He stuck it in sand, and what was the reaction, Austin? What'd the pole do?
he shoved the ball too hard and it fell down.
It sloped right over, and in the end of the story, Buwa did not agree with Suman, so a TarPul was never built. Poor Aji. What was wrong with that, Bella?
Wrong with that is that Bua did agree to Suman's decision and Kader's, so there was a TarPul made.
Poor Aji, what might have happened if that TarPul never got built, Ravion?
He would have died.
She could have gotten really sick. She could have died if she couldn't get across. Now, if you remember one of those questions, I mentioned that geotechnical engineers cannot magically see under the ground. Why do you think I covered this site with foil?
In the earth, you can't see, but that's a clear container, so you can see, so you wrapped it up so we can't see.
You're so smart. Kiss your brain. I'm Laura Keeling, and I teach at Tully Elementary. It's in Louisville, Kentucky, and I teach engineering to students K through 5, approximately 800 kids. A tip I would give teachers reading the story for the first time, they need to read that story themselves before reading it to the children, and finding ways to involve the kids as you're reading. Whether it's through the vocabulary or in this particular geotechnical engineering, we might all do the greeting Namaste, and Namaskar is a little more formal. So you obviously you just do those things that come naturally and that are best practices in reading. I mean, the storyline absolutely engages them, but you got to do those little certain tricks to keep the kids really invested, like just changing my voice when Buwa, who's the father, is a very stern disciplinarian, and I think if you just change your voice, that really adds that edge to the conflict that's in the story. I prefer to read the book in one setting. It takes approximately 40 to 45 minutes, but I keep them moving and I keep the dialogue going between us. The class that I'm currently teaching in this video, they're third graders. As second graders, they did the artifact. They carved a petroglyph into some different earth materials because in second grade they do the rock cycle. This year in third grade they do sound, so we did Kwame sound and acoustical engineering, and then finally, so this would be their third one in 2 years, building the TarPul that goes along with their earth materials unit in third grade. And it's amazing the difference from last year to this year. When we go to imagine, they already know what that means. They can recite the engineering design process forwards and backwards. I can give them examples of a step and they know, oh, that's the ask. We know what happens when you build and design. Oh, that's the create. So they've really, and I can't wait to see them as fifth graders and hopefully as middle schoolers, and I want to track them through high school until they get to an engineering school, hopefully in college. I think they'll really be a step ahead of the other students around them.